I do not do a lot with my free time. I'm a very normal, not normal. I'm a very boring, let's say that, boring person. I like sitting in the house. I still play some video games, not a lot anymore. Ugh, excuse that burp. But fantasy baseball gets a lot of my fucking attention, and even more so since starting this podcast, it has gotten my attention. And that's what this episode is about. Not the first fantasy baseball tailored episode. This isn't fucking new, but it's something that I enjoy. It's a fun part of baseball that I think if you give it a chance, you would also fucking enjoy it. And you know why? Because fantasy football is probably most people's experience with fantasy sports. And there's a lot now that at the ripe old age of 25 that pisses me off with fantasy football that I do not have to deal with in fantasy baseball. You know, the fantasy football shit of, oh, this backup running back that scored 2 touchdowns and ran for 120 yards for the first time in his NFL career is the reason that I lost to my girlfriend. It's like, no, you don't have to deal with that in fantasy baseball. Fantasy baseball, you don't have to set the lineup every day. I'm going to talk about my teams in a second, but we're going to have this preamble here, and if you still say fuck fantasy baseball after this, then fine. But fantasy baseball, you can either, there's infinite customizable options for how you want to do the league. I made a whole show, the Bullpen League, the last 2 episodes that'll come out the end of this year too. I made a whole show following the league that I started. It was 8 players, and it was on Fantrax, and Fantrax is an app where you can customize any, fantasy baseball setting, and they do other sports and all that shit too. And if you think that this is a paid advertisement, you don't know how irrelevant I truly am. That's on you. I don't get paid for shit, and it's just me doing this, and I'm a nerd, and I like fantasy fucking baseball. So I'm going to talk about all the teams that I had this year and how they did and, my general thoughts. And we're going to try to do that as concisely as possible, the usual goal. But I always have a little bit too many fucking words and my mouth gets me on here for a little bit. But you know what a fucking podcast is. So again, fantasy baseball, I sincerely enjoy it. If you even have a mild interest, then just look into it. Look into it a little bit. There's so many different league options. I'm in some leagues where you set your lineup at the start of the week and then it just goes and then you either win the matchup or you lose. I'm in some where it just counts the stats for the full year. And if your team was the best, then your team was the best. There's so many different ways to do it. I'll talk about it a little bit in this one, but I'm mostly going to talk about if my teams were good or not, because I had a lot of teams. I've never had this many teams in one season of baseball, and I just truly, I don't have anything better to do. I even thought about it before. I'm like, why the fuck am I so into this? This was not, it's only grown. It's only grown from these last few years. And it's like I used to not understand it and argue with myself, but then I was also just like, it's something I enjoy, so fuck it, I'm not gonna argue with it, but I enjoy it. So if that's a long enough preamble for you, it's long enough for me. So let's fucking get into this here. Very first team, we'll talk about the Robert Crawford fan club, who finished in 4th place with 84 overall points. This league was rotisserie scoring, so you just try to win each statistical category. There's 5 categories in hitting, 5 categories in pitching, 11 teams in this league, so you just want to try to win as many categories as possible, and then the season ends, and wherever you're at is where you're fucking at. So this year I was quite happy with my outfield. Oh, I actually made some trades in this league too. Let me try to find these trades really quick while I'm talking, but I made 3 trades this year that I was actually very happy with, that I think worked out. Again, I only finished in 4th place, but this is a league that I never win. I have yet to win it. I'm trying my damnedest every year to win this thing. Who knows if it'll actually happen? History shows it will not. But I put a lot of effort into this one, and fourth place was a good year. Last year I was a lot worse for sure. I want to say I was in, man, maybe fifth or sixth. I did not do well at all. The first trade I made, again, I said I liked my outfield. I got Yordan Alvarez. I traded away Mason Miller and Maikel Garcia, third baseman, second baseman from the Royals there. Mason Miller, damn good closer. I was sorry to see him go, but damn, I was able to survive. I still won the saves category. Later on in the year, I traded one of my starting pitchers, Mackenzie Gore, dude who I did not really give a fuck about. I think he'll still end up being pretty good, but he was pretty mediocre last year. 4 ERA of 4 exactly, so that's not as bad as I thought. But I got Sean Murphy. I got a backup catcher, Sean Murphy, who actually, he only hit 193. He didn't do too great, but he hit 10 home runs, I guess. So I was happy to have him. I had a backup catcher that I didn't hate, and my starting pitchers were expendable. So, and then my last trade, I acquired closer Kyle Finnegan, the Washington guy, and traded away Bryson Stott, who had a little bit of a down year in Philadelphia this year. And I was very happy with that one because I got to make sure I secured the save category. The relievers I had were damn good. I had a good lineup here. Who's in there? Ryan Helsley led Major League Baseball in saves, I think. Lucas Urseg got traded to Kansas City, ended up doing good. Tanner Scott I held on to, as well as Sir Anthony Dominguez. It was picking up saves for Baltimore near the end of the year. I did really like this team. And I did my damnedest for sure. Teoscar Hernandez, Yordan Alvarez, had Julio Rodriguez, who was not even as good as he could have been this year. James Wood, rookie, debuted this year, hit 264, 9 home runs, 41 RBIs, 14 stolen bases. He's going to be damn good for years to come. Picked up Luis Garcia Jr. at second base. He had a great year. 70 RBIs, 22 stolen bases, hit 282. Salvador Perez, Bryce Harper, picked up Jordan Walker for fun. Jackson Holiday didn't really get it going. Zach Neto, damn good shortstop option. I'll die on that hill every day. So, congrats, Robert Crawford fan club. You got fourth place. Put a lot of effort. Fourth place, not too bad. Regular ass ESPN league here. This is Team Moose. Team Moose. Team Moose. When I talked about my teams before, a lot of them are moose centered. I'm a big fan of the moose. Great animal. The YouTube channel all my shit's on is called Moose Media. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the moose. This team also had Salvador Perez. And this was a basic, regular-ass ESPN rotisserie league. Same style of scoring as the previous league. But this one had 10 total teams, consisted of 9 other randos from ESPN. I finished in second place, 79.5 points, about 9 behind first place. Excuse me, I'm burping again. Man, I want to get through this quick, believe me. I hope this will be entertaining. I'm sure in some degree, again, if you're listening to this point, I appreciate it. Let me throw that in there. Cause yeah, I'm trying to go through these quickly and just talk about my fantasy teams, and I'm just like, what am I doing? You also get to a point where you're like, it's like 10:30 at night, and this is what I'm doing. So that's hilarious. Anyway, Team Moose, how'd they do? Second place, already said it. 9 points behind first place. Tried my fucking hardest. Last year I won. I did a league just like this last year, regular ESPN league. Won it easily. Didn't do it this year. I had Jackson Merrill, had Michael Harris II. The Mets and the Braves had to play that doubleheader on September 30th, so I picked up a fucking Jose Iglesias, Luis Angel, Acuna. To make sure that I stayed in second, because I only stayed in second by 1 point. The guy in third was 1 point behind me. So I didn't want to give that up on the last day, and it worked out. So, basic bitch ESPN league, got second place. Had Emmanuel Clase as well. He had a damn good year. And I made an episode about him not too long ago. That was one of my more favorites. Anyways, we got, what's the next team? The Phantom Moose. Like the Phantom Menace, but the Phantom Moose. Haha, you get it. This team also finished in second place. This is another basic ESPN league, 10 teams total, and this is called a season points league, where you get a certain amount of points for each certain category. So there's, runs. Instead of home runs, there is total bases. So a home run would count for 4 total bases. So in these standings, you don't see home runs mentioned, you see total bases, which is very interesting because your eyes kind of get used to that, but it's different. You lose points for certain things. When your pitchers give up runs, and when your hitters strike out, you lose points. So I finished with 6,081 overall points, about 400 plus behind first place, who had 6,519. Again, third place, right on my ass, 6,066 points. I took that by less than 20. This one actually, I entered that doubleheader, that Braves Mets doubleheader. I entered that shit with being in third place. I was in third place. Picked up Mark Vientos, big dog. Also had Ozzy Albies, picked him up to help me out. Already had Edwin Diaz. The boys were able to get it done and throw me into second place there on the last day. So I don't know if that guy was pissed. I probably would have been. But hey, he could have done it too. So yeah, that team finished second place. Again, 2 basic ESPN leagues, and I could not capture first place. This team also had Vlad Jr., O'Neal Cruz, Jackson Churio, Brent Rooker, Jazz Chisholm. It was a good team. George Kirby, Mason Miller. Only second place, though. A team that I will tell you did take first place, though. This team, they are affectionately named Team I'm in a Car, because I was in a fucking car as I was drafting this team. I was on my way to Los Angeles to move there with my girlfriend, Amanda. I love her very much. She can probably hear me in the other room recording this. Maybe. But yeah, I was literally driving to Los Angeles. Well, actually, she was driving, and I was just getting done driving, and I'm like, you know what? It's time to draft a fantasy team. I've got time. Let's do it. This team won the league. Not only won the league, but went 7-1. This is a head-to-head points league where it's let's see here. It's similar scoring as that last league I talked about, but it's a head-to-head matchup every week, which is similar to fantasy football, but it's not. So it's a head-to-head matchup. Whichever team scores the most points wins. That makes complete sense, whatever. But again, this team went 7-1. The one game I lost, I barely lost it. And the total points scored by my team, I can't do numbers, 2,448 points scored. The second highest amount of points scored throughout this season was 1,856. Absolutely fucking crazy how good this team ended up being. I got Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Gunnar Henderson, Will Smith, Josh Naylor, Royce Lewis, Alec Burleson's there for fun. Lawrence Butler, Jurickson Profar, Corey Seager. This is a fucking all-star team, pretty much. Pitching, we had Ryan Helsley, Rafael Iglesias. Rafael? I'm pretty sure that's right. Whatever. I had Chris Sale, Paul Skeens, Garrett Cole, Blake Snell. How did these things happen? Hugh Darvish there, Michael King. I mean, how? How did this happen? How did this work out? The one guy I didn't mention, Xavier Edwards, he came up in the middle of the year. He ended up doing pretty good. He had 328, stole 31 bases, slid in there to second base, and did exactly what I would want a second baseman to do on a fantasy team. I mean, it was just insane. It was just insane. And newsflash, this is the one team that I had that fucking won this year. Literally the one team. We'll talk about one more after this one. But again, the one team that won. And I drafted it in the car on my way to LA. And I had such it was drafted out of pure boredom. Pure boredom. And it was the best fucking team I'll probably ever have on paper. So congrats to team I'm in the car. You did damn good. The last team we'll talk about, okay, we're keeping this in almost reasonable time. The Moose is loose. This was another team that I acquired in the middle of the year, except this was a established league on Yahoo, where you can Google shit and have less fun. This had 12 teams. I ended up finishing the season in 9th place, with a record of 9-13. Again, this was head-to-head matchups. You can change your lineup every day, but in this league, you can only make five transactions every week. So that was a little bit of a twist. I also get to keep 2 keepers for next year in this league. So I get to, hold on to 2 players as long as they were drafted, I think, after the 5th round. And I had them on my team for a certain amount of time. I'll have to look at those rules again. But I get to keep 2 players from my current team to next year. So, Cody Bellinger could be kept. Willie Adames could be kept. Diaz, the catcher for the Astros. Riley Green could be kept. I mean, there's some good players here. I think I won. I want to say I went like 2-3 in the 5 weeks that I had this team at the end of the year. Again, I inherited the roster. I did my best. I won the first round of the playoffs that I was in. I was in the consolation ladder. But I could only do so much. Kyle Tucker, too. Jesus. I had Kyle Tucker, but only for a little bit because he was hurt. So this will be a fun. This one also had Emmanuel Clase. I'm sorry I keep interrupting myself. But, this team was fun. I'm excited to get a full go at it next year. But, yeah, they finished in 9th. They finished the shittiest, for sure. Again, I mentioned before the Bullpen League. Last 2 episodes 9 and 10, will be out before the end of the year. And it will return in 2025. And the format will be a little bit different, and it's only going to get better. So the Bullpen League was, I mentioned it previously, but it's the, kind of the fantasy show following the league that I created for this past upcoming Major League season. I want to bring it back next year, too. I had a lot of fun, and I'm excited to do it again next year. So I'll talk about how my team did in those episodes. Kind of keep it to that. Honorable mention to one final team that is forgotten about with good reason. Again, a random league I joined. This was called a guillotine league. I had no idea what the hell it was, but this was 14 teams who drafted at the All-Star break. Again, this was a team that was auto-drafted. Auto-drafted. They didn't even have it filled in at the time of the draft, and I hopped in there for free. And you start 40 players a week. You got 40 players, and their stats all count. And that was what this league was. And if you had to make it You had to, at a certain point, 2 teams were cut. And then after another certain amount of time, another 2 teams and another 2 teams, and I think that's where the guillotine comes from, where they're chopping motherfuckers down if they're not doing good. So I made it past the first cut, fought tooth and nail, but died at the second, and that one was a lot of fun, and I don't know if I'll do it again, but hey, it was cool. I tried a lot of fantasy leagues this year, and, that one, I guess, was the shittiest one, but it was still cool. So again, if you are listening to this point, as I always say, thank you very much. And I really appreciate it, especially ones where I ramble about fantasy baseball for way too fucking long. Because, I always enjoy them. I enjoy every episode. But, again, fantasy baseball, I enjoy it. If you've never tried it and you got a little curiosity, give it a try. It's fun. Look into it. If you want to ask me a question, I'd be happy to answer a question. That's fine. It's fun. I enjoy it. You don't have to get as into it as I do. Believe me, that's the cool part about it. You do not have to get into it like I do, but me getting into it this much, maybe it'll pique your curiosity. Maybe it'll get you a little interested. Who do I know? Who do I know? What do I know? You know what I fucking meant. Again, if you haven't left a review on Apple or Spotify and you think you'd want to, I'd appreciate that. If not, again, thank you for listening. We'll have more episodes after this. We're still sticking to the 2 a week situation. I'm going to wrap this one up here. Again, thank you very much, and I'll be back quite soon.